The whole thing's crazy. Yeah. And it's all coming from the left.
I was on the left until like 3 years ago.
What do you make of Elon Musk's comments?
He says, leave the farmers alone. We owe farmers immense gratitude for making the food on our tables.
Fascinating space program, brilliant businessman. Why does everybody hate him?
One assumes that young Mr. Elon Musk, multi-billionaire CEO of Tesla and of one or two other corporations, was on a break both from planning how to colonise Mars, no less, and from nappy changing duty, the youngest of his 12 children being, at the time of this recording, a few months old, when he commented on X, his own social media platform of course, that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer should, quote, leave farmers alone, unquote. Not unsurprisingly, you see, farmers are dismayed that from April 2026, they will no longer be exempt from paying inheritance tax. This change to agricultural property relief having been announced in the budget statement of autumn 2024. Instead, if they inherit a farm worth over £1 million, they won't have to pay any tax on the first £1 million, but will now have to pay 20% tax on any amount over that. So no, young Elon Musk, co-head no less of Donald Trump's newly created Department of Government Efficiency, is by no means the only one currently after Keir Starmer's and Rachel Reeves' blood.
Since the budget, I know of one farmer who's cancelled a £1 million expansion plan to his strawberry growing business. I know another farmer who's cancelled a £300,000 investment in equipment. And just yesterday I was hearing from a hospitality entrepreneur in my constituency who's cancelled another investment in a new pub.
What is going on with this policy?
This is not a tax loophole. This is a tax relief. This is a business tax relief. I think the first mistake is that they've conflated a business asset with personal wealth, and they've gone after that.
Well, I bet you any amount of money that the change to agricultural property relief will stop farms being used as a tax dodge and that only the richest farms will be liable for the new tax anyway.
Saying he's sick and tired of seeing our public services crumble while the rich and wealthy buy up huge estates, robbing young farmers of their dreams just to avoid paying their taxes. He says this is a scandal. And he also goes on to say it's not the very rich it's only the very rich estates that are going to be affected by this, not the small family farms like the media is suggesting.
This is what Steve Reed, Environment Secretary, says, and as we all know, politicians never mislead the public in any way. So, what Mr. Reed says is spot on and will mean that most farmers have nothing to fear from this inheritance tax change. Right, Victoria Vivian, President of the Country, Land and Business Association?
Well, it's rot. It's absolute rot from top to bottom. There's almost no statistical proof of this large-scale purchasing of land to conceal wealth. And were it to be happening, the Treasury has it within its power to close that loophole. They could increase the active farmer status, for example, that you would need to claim the relief. Small farms, it would be a very small farm indeed if it was less than £1 million in value. Farmland is at about averaging £10,000 an acre, so that's a 100-acre farm. So this is not going to it's not going to punish the people he clearly wants to punish, nor is it going to protect the family farms, which are obviously going to be far bigger than 100 acres.
Well, Mr. Musk, it looks like you're speaking for the vast majority of UK farmers then. Maybe. But exactly how impartial are you, Mr. M? Haven't you had it in for the UK PM ever since he didn't invite you to his party that time? You know the one I mean, right?
Let's talk about Elon Musk. He's the richest person in the world, and that might be some of the reason why so many people, certainly in this country, seem to hate him, including our government, including our Prime Minister. He was pointedly not invited to a business investment conference last week, which was supposed to stimulate investment in this country. Now, I think Elon would have come if he was invited, but we didn't invite him because he's had a bit of a thing going on with our president. But generally speaking, I'm wondering why Elon, a fascinating guy, a clever guy, brilliant guy, fascinating space program, brilliant businessman. Why does everybody hate him? Why is that?
Sorry, Mr. O'Sullivan, but I fancy you're pulling our leg. To be exact, whatever hostility, or thing, if you prefer, may have developed between Mr. Musk and PM Starmer, unlike what you've just more or less stated, there's no way that the UK Prime Minister, leader of the world's sixth biggest economy, would let that interfere with his statesmanship. Is there?
Well, what's become abundantly clear is that we have a bunch of socialist student politicians running the United Kingdom, running the sixth largest economy in the world. So we'd better buckle up for that. I mean, as you can see from that absurd exchange, frankly, this is a Labour government that will put their own petty, hurt feelings about some mean tweets in their eyes ahead of the interests of the British people. We're referring to Elon Musk as, many people want to come. Not only is this the wealthiest man in the world, commanding hundreds of billions of capital investment, he's also by far and away the greatest entrepreneur of our lifetimes. You can make the case he's the greatest entrepreneur of all time. He inspires young people who want to get on in life, which again is really antithetical to this Labour government. And I'd also add that Keir Starmer has come out and said one of the purposes of this investment summit, to which Musk was not invited, was to get rid of unnecessary regulation that discourages investment in the United Kingdom. Well, if that is true, Mr. Starmer, then you should call a press conference and announce a dissolution of your government, because that is all you have been doing. It's all you're going to do in the budget that's upcoming, and clearly that's going to be the case for the next 5 years.
So, Mr. Musk, not being invited to this famous investment summit, which I'm sure you lost tons of sleep over, wasn't, strictly speaking, the cause of the obvious ill feeling between you and PM Starmer. It was the consequence. As to what the actual cause is, well now, I hear you're something of a recovering political lefty.
The Steele dossier.
Steele dossier was completely fabricated by a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was paid by the Clinton campaign. Literally.
Crazy.
And still people think the Russia hoax is real.
And there's no repercussions.
Yes.
No one had to apologize. Hillary Clinton never came out and apologized for that, and people still listen to her. The whole thing is crazy. And it's all coming from the left, which, growing up as a person who was in the left my whole life, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same. I mean, I was on the left until like 3 years ago. I mean,
it's not the left anymore.
It's not the left anymore.
Well, Mr. Musk, your switch to the right has been duly rewarded. Or, should I say, your switch to the right has been duly rewarded, co-lead of the Department of Government Efficiency. I mentioned you're coming into the employ of President-elect Donald Trump earlier. And hey, it might be said that you're already doing your job even before Mr. Trump's administration begins. Yes, that's right. With your role in Trump's government, you've driven the Guardian newspaper itself off your social media platform.
The Guardian newspaper, read by so few people now, has done two things that are absolutely laughable. Firstly, when Trump won, they announced that they were going to create counselling sessions for their journalists because it was so traumatic. Today, in a fit of pique that Elon Musk's going to be involved, they've quit Toxic X because it's no good for our mental health. What the hell is happening to our country, Brendan? Seriously, man.
I mean, what a bunch of babies. This is it's such a temper tantrum. I must say I'm enjoying the Guardian's meltdown since Trump won the election. It's great fun. It's really good to watch.
Ooh, there's an Employee of the Week certificate sitting in the Oval Office right now with your name on it, Mr. Musk, I bet. Having the voice of the left shut down is just what Mr. Trump likes to see. Of course, you already knew that.
We're going to talk about some of the problems that Starmer will incur because of Donald Trump being the president. Donald Trump has already apparently been heard in deep conversation with his big mate Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, saying, I'm worried about Keir Starmer. He's very, very left-wing.
Well, I'd say you've just given President-elect Mr. Trump a bit less to worry about where the UK's political left is concerned. But yet, Mr. Musk, I don't think we've got to the bottom of the abject contempt between you and PM Starmer, because we haven't yet talked about the devastating events that unravelled in Southport on the 29th of July 2024. Or rather, we haven't yet talked about your criticism of PM Starmer over so-called two-tier policing, two-tier criminal justice and record levels of immigration.
Forget women's boxing. There's a new fight making headlines. It's between Keir Starmer and Elon Musk. The PM and tech mogul are in a war of words over the role of social media in fueling the UK riots.
It all started when Elon Musk said that what we're seeing with rioting in the UK was inevitable and that civil war is probably likely because of unchecked immigration.
Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, I still call it Twitter, not X, started around with the Prime Minister of what's been happening in the UK, saying, quotes, civil war is inevitable. No, it isn't, and it's an idiotic thing to say.
And then they have a prison overcrowding situation in the UK, so they're quite literally releasing convicted pedophiles and putting people in jail for Facebook posts.
Then Sir Keir Starmer did a tweet to the Prime Minister. He said, "We won't tolerate attacks on mosques or on Muslim communities." And Elon Musk replied, "Shouldn't you be concerned about attacks on all communities?"
Now we know the full story of contempt and resentment behind the mutual hostility between you and PM Starmer. It strikes me as strange for an immigrant to criticise immigration, but then your many billions probably make you, well, American. Speaking of your mega wealth, is that an obvious and credible counter to the widely repeated refrain that you should keep your nose out of UK politics?
But of course, the reaction on X itself has just been, he should stay out of our country, he should stop interfering.
Yeah, but come on, I mean, there's a fair point in that. I mean, as you say, if you look at the crux of what he says, it makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah.
You do wonder why he's delving into UK politics. He's not a UK citizen.
He isn't, but I think there's also, I mean, he's allowed an opinion.
Yeah.
As is anyone, and one can ignore that opinion. We don't have to listen to it. We don't have to go mad about it. He does have an actual personal interest, from my understanding, in food because his brother's business is all about food and financing it and, you know, providing it, making it in America. So he's allowed an opinion, and I think there's a sort of, if you look at the reaction, it can sometimes be with someone like him, it's like people just really, really dislike someone who, at the end of the day, has been extremely successful from nothing. And maybe actually we should listen to people like that with immense business experience.
Now, PM Starmer's own predecessor, ex-Prime Minister and hitherto hedge fund manager Rishi Sunak, echoes these very sentiments.
Today, the OBR has forecast growth is going to be lower under this government than it was forecast to be under the Conservatives. That's the change they have brought. But Madam Deputy Speaker, this is what happens when the Labour Party is led by people who have no experience of business and enterprise.
Mr Musk, I can't lead you on. Some UK commentators feel somewhat differently towards your criticisms of the UK government.
We're all talking about Elon Musk at the moment because he does seem to be rather obsessed with the UK, more so than he has been before, and frequently commenting on the unrest and riots we've had. He replied to a clip of Nigel Farage, who accused Keir Starmer of being the biggest threat to free speech the UK has ever seen. He simply wrote, "true," which seems both untrue and odd. Carlisle's question then, should he be talking Elon Musk down, Keir Starmer?
It's been a sort of surreal confrontation between the two. I mean, in my column I compare Elon Musk to the Joker in the Batman films, this sort of anarchic sort of bomb thrower.
And hey, for all we know, the Country, Land and Business Association are pulling the you-know-what over our eyes regarding the upcoming changes to agricultural property relief. And perhaps you are willingly colluding with them in that project, Mr Musk.
You know, Paul Johnson from the IFS said this is massively overblown. Farmers
What does the IFS know about farming?
Farmers have got nothing to fear. Under these changes, you can still pass on £3 million tax-free. You then only pay 20% inheritance tax on anything you pass on above £3 million, and you've got 10 years to pay it. I mean, this is an exceptional deal that no one else in society has got. And frankly, I think the farmers need to keep quiet so that other people don't get angry and saying, why are they getting that preferential treatment?
Just an idea. Anyway, Mr Musk, I can't sit here chatting all day, and you've probably got another space shuttle to launch. If you've enjoyed this video, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.